Gasoline is proudly brought to you by the following sponsors.
Okay, everybody, thanks for coming in today. It was a little bit drizzly, but the weather's cleared a bit. Great turnout. My name's Everitt, for those of you who haven't met me. I sort of help organise some of the events for the Victorian Torana Club. I'd like to thank Eddie Woods for hosting us today. Eddie's and I've been working fairly closely together on my engine rebuild over the last few months, and very happy with the result. And it's, Eddie and Head Start Development have done an awesome job with it. So I'd like to introduce Eddie, and you can take it from here.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Head Start Development Company. I'll give you a very brief history of the company and a little bit of a brief history on myself. Probably to start with, if you all just cast your eyes up to that Victor motor mower up there. In fact, I'll go and get it. It has a lot of significance. Here we go. The old Victor 18. When I was about, I think, 12 years old, my sister went to a grammar school in Kilvington Girls Grammar School in Ormond, and they had a Trash and Treasure Day. Mum and Dad and myself and my sister went along, and they had a Victor motor mower like that for $10. Dad said, I think I want one of them. So we bought the motor mower, and I spent the next, probably 3 or 4 weekends trying to start the fool of a thing. In the end, Dad said, look, I think the engine needs a rebuild. Got no compression. I got one bang out of it, that was it. So he said, it's your project, son. Dismantle the engine, we'll send it off. We've got a bored out 10th hour, another piston, new set of rings. And he said, you know, I've heard that you can polish these things. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you get the cylinder head and you polish it. I went, okay, this is a bit of a challenge, I'll do it. So I polished the cylinder head. Not to be content with that, I thought, well, since we're modifying this, we need to make a bit of noise. Now, you'll all understand what noise is about. So this exhaust pipe here, which traditionally goes down through the bottom of the machine into a baffled area, is the muffler. Way too quiet. I turned that up the other way, and I put a piece of exhaust pipe on the back of it, so it made the leg of your pants nice and black. But it made a lot of noise and it blew smoke rings. I thought, this is pretty cool. That ignited a passion for modifying motors that I've never been able to extinguish. So hence the significance of the motor mower. And that led to me always tinkering with an FE Holden was my first car. I always tinkered with it, you know, twin carbies, this sort of thing. Extractors, port and polish the head. You've got to polish the head. If I only knew what I know now. So the FE Holden was my first real 4-stroke project. I loved the car, kept it for many, many years. I worked at Repco in Clayton, at Hardy Spicer at the time. Through a number of events I left that company, and then I started work at Perfect Tune Yellow Terror Company in Wickham Road, Moorabbin. And that's where I started my quest or interest in cylinder heads. It's always been a bit of a challenge to me to squeeze the last little bit of horsepower out of something naturally aspirated. After working at Perfect Tune for about 10 years, I left that company because they started to diversify into producing roller rockers and doing a lot of repetitious machining with NC machinery and getting away from the projects that I really like to do, which was hand finishing cylinder heads.
G'day, I'm Shubes. This is my LX Tirana. Bought the car back when I was 16, a long time ago, 15 or 16 years now. It's been a bit of a family obsession. Me and the old man built her up, and here we are. Totally different car now to what it used to be, but it's running a small block. Do a bit of drag racing in it, go cruising with the young bloke and the wife. Engine's a 383 stroke small block Chev, running a hydraulic roller, 10.5 to 1 comp, scat bottom end, forged pistons, all the usual stuff. Pro top line heads, dual plane intake, 750 Ultra HP carby. It's making about 450 horsepower at the flywheel. We've done a bit of drag racing in the past, used to run 11.7. With the new combo it's now untested, so hopefully we can improve that number a little bit more too.
I then, in 1982, started a business with a friend of mine, a partner, in Wickham Road, Moorabbin, just down from Perfect Tune, and we called it the Head Stud. We did all of the cylinder heads for the VK Commodores, the Blue Meanies, the Senators. They were all hand finished by us for HDT. We got to meet Brock and Larry Perkins and became very good friends with Larry Perkins almost on a personal basis, which then led us to develop a lot of cylinder heads, well, most of the cylinder heads for his race cars, right up to the years of the fuel injected Holden coming in. A number of moves later, we finished up in this factory where we've been for 19 years, and we've concentrated on historic or muscle car type orientation of vehicles, particularly XU1 Tiranas, which I have a passion for myself because it's a red motor, and I've probably done, I hate to think how many Yellow Terror heads I did for red motor Holdens. We used to produce 1,000 a month, and yeah, they were all done by hand, with the exception of the machining. You know, the porting was done by hand, the assembly was all done by hand, so myself and red motor Holden heads go back quite a long way. I still have a passion for them, and it's very interesting. We're actually developing over 300 horsepower out of every cylinder head we do for race cars now. 308 Holdens, I have an enormous passion for those. I raced an Oz car at the Thunderdome for many, many years. I now race that as a sports sedan, or it's called a tin top, super tin top, under the AASA banner. 5 litre basic configuration motor. Absolutely awesome motor. The power that you can get out of one of those is incredible. With the latest of the Perfect Tune cylinder heads, which I should just digress for a moment, all of the aluminium cylinder heads that Perfect Tune or Yellow Terror make, I designed. And it's not that I'm blowing my own flag, but it means that Dave Bennett, who was the principal of that company at the time, and myself became friends again, and we worked together very closely. Hence we developed all of the cylinder heads for him. We'd do one off, they'd take them back and machine them up and put his brand name on it. So I've had a lot of association with aluminium 308 heads, and indeed cast iron ones. The last of the fuel injected cylinder heads that Perfect Tune did flow enough air to make 700 horsepower. They're an awesome cylinder head. Very, very good quality casting, great cylinder head to use. So that's a bit of a brief history of what we're doing. As I said, we've been here for 19 years. I've got 2 sons work for me. I have another chap that's been with me for 20 years, Rodney. Brilliant machinist. He can do anything that you throw at him. My 2 sons, one does a lot of the porting now. The other one runs a CNC department, which we have here, manufacturing engine valves and doing some milling machine work. So it's sort of a family type atmosphere we have here. It's all pretty laid back and friendly, and yeah, we get along good and we enjoy what we do. So without messing around too much more, we'll take you on a bit of a shop tour, and at the end of that you can ask any questions you like and we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, so it's been a good turnout today. Just a little bit about the car. I've had the car for probably 7-8 years now. It's been a little bit around in the show scenes, Summer Nats. I've won 2 years in a row, obviously in the street class, and 1 year in the Grand Champions. When I first purchased the car, it was a car I bought up in Bairnsdale for $1,500. Standard 2-door green looking LJ Tirana. Yeah, the condition of it was as you expect in LJ Tiranas. Rust seal panels, rust lower guard sections, rust floor pans, body walls, all over the show. yeah, a lot of work has gone into it, a lot of time, a lot of dedicated people have put a lot of hours and time into it too to get up to this standard. The engine is a 383 small block Chev. It's got 380 Racer Pro 23 degree aluminium cylinder heads. The engine only makes 470 horsepower. It's a flat tappet camshaft, 750 Holy Carby on it. Runs on premium unleaded fuel. It's got a 4,500 high stall dominator converter in it with a 2-speed power glide and a 9-inch rear end with 3.9 gears.
Once a cylinder head comes into here, it'll be put onto one of these work holders. We give it a wire brush in every area that we can possibly get into, remove all the carbon. We then check it for valve guide clearance, whether it needs valve seat inserting. And I'd have to mention at the moment, with unleaded fuels, every cylinder head needs an insert put on the exhaust seat because the lack of lead in the fuel will create a breakdown of the cast iron between the valve seat and the actual face of the valve. So every cast iron cylinder head needs an insert put on the exhaust seat eventually. Once we've ascertained that, we'll move it down. Oh, it's a bit hard to see, but just behind that bin there's a red bench. We fit all our cylinder heads with a genuine K-line valve guide, which is an aluminium, a mixture of aluminium and bronze. It's a very thin, like a 30 thou thick walled guide that we drill the guide out, punch the new guide into, and then you ball broach that out to a rough size. Then we hone it. When we hone it, it's like with a little diamond stone, and we measure the ID of the guide with an internal dial indicator. That way we can get exactly the clearance that we want on the valve guide to the valve stem, and we know that the valve guide is parallel, perfectly true all the way through. At that point we'll stay here, but the head will go back out into the machine shop. It'll have valve seats machined, it'll have spring pads machined, machine for screw-in studs, any other sort of machining you want to do to it. Now if you just want to turn round, these two cylinder heads here are heads that we've prepared similar to that one on the end of the bench, which belongs to Daniel Van Stockram from Weber Performance. These cylinder heads have been prepared for Group NC racing. We mill the intake port out and it's milled top, bottom and the sides, so we get the volume that we need to make the horsepower or pass the air that we need to do. We move the intake guide away from the combustion chamber wall, so it makes it closer to the exhaust valve, which creates a greater amount of air breathing around the side of the valve in the combustion chamber. It also passes more air through it because it's a big valve. We then slot the head bolt holes, and I don't think it's been done on this one yet, no. We fill up the dowel holes. On a red motor head you always plonk it on the block and wiggle it round and it drops down on the dowels. We relocate those dowel holes, so we move the cylinder head across 100 thou on the block. It does two things. It brings the valves closer to the centre of the bore itself, which gives better breathing around the wall of the chamber. It also alters the way in which we can port it. And it's a little hard to explain, but because we've moved it away from an area that has water in it, we can actually get a better shape to get enhanced airflow around that particular turn. We've slotted the bolt holes. We angle mill the cylinder head, and what that does, it lays the valves down flatter so they have greater clearance between the valve and the piston at full lift, because most of these, or in fact all of them, would run a very savage roller camshaft in them. And it's the combination of the cylinder head and the camshaft that produce the horsepower that these vehicles make now. Once they've been machined out and put in here, they're hand finished. Now when I say hand finished, they are hand finished with a grinder, and you hang onto that grinder for 40 hours to do one of those cylinder heads with a combination of carbide burrs in them, stones of various shapes, long stones, round stones. We finish off the combustion chamber with what's called a spira band, which is really just an emery drum on a rubber disc or a rubber slug. That cylinder head there's a Repco high power grey motor Holden head that we've just reconditioned. I just polished the chambers up quickly. Now at that point I'd like to mention that polishing is quite a misnomer. The old port and polish theory, it's great. You wouldn't want to polish any higher than that in a combustion chamber. And the port itself, we try to leave them as rough as we can within reason. We do most of our port finishing with a rotary burr like that in a drill. It slows the burr down, it makes it jump on the surface and gives a nice mottled finish in the port that you're trying to modify. The reason we do that is so you can get the air and the fuel to mix together. If you've ever seen droplets of fuel going down an intake manifold on an engine on a dynamometer, we have done it. So we've put a layer of perspex over the top of the intake manifold, and you might think the fuel goes in a spray. It doesn't. It goes in droplets. It falls and it just dribbles down the ports. It's quite amazing. So if you roughen the port up, you'll get the air and the fuel to mix together, so it does actually atomise. The more you can atomise that fuel and turn it, the more power you'll make as it enters the combustion chamber and explodes.
And don't forget, viewers, to look up the all-new Shannons Club. Shannons Club is a huge site. It's like a hub for enthusiasts. You jump on there, you can start your own garage, put pictures of your cars up there, stories of your cars, videos, you name it. You'll see people like myself on there, Jim Richards. Click on our garages and check out some of our machines and some of our past machines. It's an incredible site, it's growing every day, so get onto it and have a ball.
I'm Daniel from Weber Performance. Here we are at the HSD Open Day. It's for the Victorian Tirana Car Club. Sitting at the front here with Eric, one of the members' cars. It's a beautiful little LJ Tirana, the 186 with triple 45 DCOE Webers. We obviously supplied the entire setup here for Eddie to fit, and it's made an incredible little combo. It's making 165 kilowatts at the wheels, which is 270 horsepower at the flywheel for a 186, so a really potent little combination. So as I mentioned, yeah, we provided the carburetors, all linkages, manifold, filters, all the bits and pieces, and it's really turned out to be a great little Tirana. So any further information you'd like on Weber carburetors, please give us a call or have a look at our website, weberperformance.com.au.
It'll stop when it's finished. You just wind it back to the start and you go all over again. This machine is an old copy turning lathe which has a hydraulic turning attachment on it, which is operated by a stylus, which follows this master mounted at the back of the machine. It's been set up with a pneumatic feature, so it will actually operate totally automatically at the flick of a switch. And this is the way we used to produce all our valves. It does the profiling at the back of the valve. You then take the valve out and put collet grooves in it and part it off in another lathe like a normal centre lathe. I'll just give you a brief example of how we operated this machine. Keeping in mind you could only do light cuts on a machine like this because it was only held in a reasonably light collet chuck. We now do these valves on a CNC machine which has a much greater clamping force on the valve stem, and you can do that in like one pass, so it makes valve manufacture a lot quicker. This machine here, we've just taken the delivery of it last week. It's a CNC milling machine with a 3-axis function on it. It's called a proto-track. What that can do is manufacture manifolds out of billet aluminium. It can manufacture bracketry, anything at all with an unusual shape. It can machine a cone, for example. The reason we purchased it is so we can machine combustion chambers on cylinder heads. We can do some porting on cylinder heads and even manufacture cylinder heads from scratch if we have a raw casting. It's quite versatile, quite robust in its construction. At the moment we've got it set up for doing surfacing of a cylinder head. It has a ball screw feed on it, which means it has very fine, very smooth operation, so you get a very good surface finish, which is important when you're running a Cometic head gasket. What we have here is a 202 HQ race car cylinder head. Very basic cylinder head. You're not allowed to do any hand finishing on the ports, no hand finishing in the combustion chamber. So the only areas that you can increase horsepower is by changing valve size, valve shape, valve seat angle, just a little bit of massaging where you're allowed to do it. Quite a restricted class of racing, but it makes you think about what you're doing.
Hi, today we're going to talk about some Holden gearboxes, diffs and shifters. Here we have a M21 gearbox. This is a, you can have it road form, race form. We race a fair bit of these and do a lot of road cars. There are a lot of upgrades we can do to them. Now these things are 40 years old now. They weren't built for the horsepower that the cars are putting out today or the treatment they get. So we've got to do a fair bit of work to try and make them last and be reliable. One thing we do is polishing the gears because they generally crack down the bottom of the gear. We change synchro rings, a bit of a weak spot for them, so we modify them. And also bearings, heavy duty bearings, things like that, we change to try and make them more reliable. I run it in my Group N LJ Tirana, putting out 330 horsepower. Now we've had pretty good reliability with them on the racetrack, so all the modifications we do seems to work out great. Okay, on the LJ Tiranas, the rear end diffs are pretty weak on them with the core spine axles. Here we have a 25 spine axle that we make to take the power that you're trying to get out of these engines today. So upgraded axle. We also have a heavy duty bearing to go on that axle. Some heavy duty backing plates to keep the bearing axle together. Here we have a LJ Tirana banjo gear set out of the diff. What we do with these, we polish them to take any imperfections out of them, to give it a nice clean surface, and any surface cracks it removes to make them stronger and more reliable. Also a problem with the Aussie 4-speeds is the shifters. Most people have driven them and found that you get stuck in gears or they're hard to find gears. This is an old one. What we do, we pull it apart, fix up all the worn areas because you can't buy them new anymore. So we fix all that up, get them plated, looking new again, so they're nice, reliable and a nice firm fit. Also what we do, we have a standard shifter linkage. All the bushes in here get a bit worn and the ends. So what we do, we make up a rose jointed shaft. You see that one's bent, that one's straight for more precise, smooth shift. Here at AW Automatics, we also do automatic transmissions, whether you have a classic car, performance car, drag car, street car. Here we have a shift kit for shift improving. If you've got a performance vehicle or towing, you might need one of these for keep the transmission together. We also have some heavy duty stuff. There's a 5-pinion planetary compared to your standard 4-pinion planetary. Much more reliable and stronger. Now the more horsepower you get, the stronger the transmission needs to be, and also the more heat it creates. So therefore we have a cooler. Most of you guys run the coolers through the radiators. This on top of the radiator, in line with it, will give it added extra cooler to the transmission to stop it from overheating. This is a heat exchanger. Still a transmission cooler, different design. A lot of European cars have these. This is actually off a Falcon. Be aware, these do split and put water in your transmission. It will cost you dearly. Here at AW Automatics, we've been doing automatics and manual gearboxes for 25 years now. So if you've got one you need us to look at, or any questions on your application, give us a call, you know where to find us. Thanks for watching.
And remember viewers, if you want to see past Gasolene episodes, go to shannons.com.au. Click on the Gasolene link and enjoy.
Gasoline is proudly brought to you by the following sponsors.